do this. Okay, so I'm not gonna make you go through all the gyrations of which year of roundtable. I'm gonna point you to this right here, the Cub Scout Breakout, and look at all this stuff I've got for you today. Calendars and guides and planning and budgets and JTE forms. I promise you, I will give you all this. Ian already has all this, bro, because, hands down from years back. So for those of you who don't know me, for those of you who are new, my name is Mike Volz. 9.5 years ago, I agreed to be a Cub Scout Roundtable Commissioner, and here I am, still here. I'm serving currently as your district commissioner, and we'll see how much longer that lasts. But we are doing a theme, if you haven't noticed, this early part of this year. A few months ago, Josh Steinhurst and Jesse talked about recruitment, right? How to do a join night, how to make that function, how to get new scouts into your pack. And I hope that a lot of you came away with ideas, with techniques. If you don't, you weren't here for it, and you've never seen it, like, what is Mike talking about? There's a YouTube channel. Hit me up. I'll point you to it because it's all on YouTube, right? Which is a resource. And then we followed that up with summer camp. Summer camp is that peak experience in the summer for your Cub Scouts that makes them want to come back, right? That is just the awesomest thing. You go to Butte Creek, you go to base camp at Baldwin, and these scouts were going to come back just jazzed for starting that next step in September, right? Now, today, we're talking about how to shift a slide to, and we're talking about annual planning. I will be the first to admit there are a lot of people in this world that don't exactly enjoy planning. I get it. I'm weird. I'm not one of those people. My wife and I actually enjoy planning our vacations almost as much as going on vacations. It's just, okay, you understand me, Joe. What can we fit in? Oh, the kids want to do this. And this actually is mentality of how do we fit all the things in that we want to do? How can we get the people to where they need to go? And what kind of fun stuff can we do fits into annual planning? Find that person. It's you, it's your Cub Master, it's a den leader that's got that. Just, I'm so excited. Find them, make sure they're involved in this. The point of over the next few months for your pack, if you haven't done it already, going and doing an annual planning meeting, conference, sleepover, I don't care, is retention. Because you're building a program for your unit to succeed. And the better your program is, the more those Cub Scouts are going to go, oh yeah, that was so cool, right? I want to do that again next year, whatever it is. So it is not the most glamorous, it's not the most exciting, but if it's done well, it's going to make your job as Cub Master, as committee chair, and even as den leaders a lot easier. Take that opportunity to step back and reflect. We're at the end of the program year, end of the school year, right? Step back, reflect. How's it been? How's it gone? Were there things that just, we're not going to do that again? It's okay. Put them on a list of never again, right? Or, oh, we really want to do that again. That was amazing. Or that was awesome, but I want to make a twist on it, whatever, right? And use that as a springboard for the next year, the next amazing adventure. Yeah, okay. When I looked at this as a committee chair years and years ago, I always approached this with three primary goals. I want to come out of annual planning with a calendar as fully fleshed out as we possibly make. Den meetings, pack meetings, blue and gold, Pinewood Derby, outings, hikes, summer camp, if I can hack it, right? What am I forgetting, you guys? Service project? Sorry? Service project? Service project, love it, right? Maybe one a quarter, that's awesome. And I want to get those as much as possible dialed into advancement. As an example, so many of our Cub Scouts need to go on a hike of some flavor. Yes, I know the new advancement's coming out soon. I'm not as familiar with it, but we can be rest assured there will be hiking for probably every single rank of some kind, right? Go ahead, Joe.
I organized all the adventures by theme across all of them. So if you want that, I can send it to you.
Joe's thinking the same thing I am, right? How can I call it vertical alignment, right? I think of along rows, lion, tiger, wolf, bear, and then I think alignment, like there's always an outdoor code, there's always a physical fitness or hiking, there's usually a cooking or a nutrition. How can you align those things? There are things that we have to do out in the world, right? Cast iron chef used to be one. It was not a den meeting inside a classroom. How do we do that? Most packs that I know, usually say the annual planning should be during the summer. Again, I'm weird. Back when I was a committee chair, I almost demanded we do it at the end of April because I wanted to get a jump on it. And the reason I did that, and I don't know what the fact is today, similar or do someone?
Well, usually as we're wrapping up the school year.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
we're having our first parent meeting, Tuesday.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. So I like to have the calendar that we create from this ready for a spring recruitment event, or even if somebody just shows up and says, hey, I'd love to, my kid's interested, I got a friend in the Wolf Den. Here's our calendar, come to summer camp with us, right? I said that a lot when I talked about summer camp, and then we said it sometimes we talked about recruitment. That actually works. I can point to scouts. I can point to one that's in the chapter meeting right now, that worked. He joined in May, we got him to summer camp, it's all jazzed to go. And that was 5 years ago or whatever it was. So as long as you're not doing it at the end of September, you're probably fine, right? Find the right time for your families, for your pack. When can you sit down and make this happen? And I know people go on vacation during the summer, I get it. So I totally appreciate that we're gonna get this done in May. That's awesome. The theory behind annual planning is kind of, if you think about it, the way your pack is in theory supposed to work, you have a committee that does stuff in the background. You get your committee chair, your treasurer, your advancement person. They're kind of like working in the background. And in theory, the Cub Master, the den leaders are the stars of the show and they're putting on the program, right? And it's supposed to be a coming together of those two parts of your pack. In reality, if your pack is anything like mine, everybody has 10 hats they wear, and we're all doing a zillion different things. Bring everyone together, right? But in theory, the Cub Master and the committee chair should be jointly hosting this, should have maybe even a conversation beforehand. What are we going to focus on? We're going to prioritize. This year is unique to a certain degree with the advancement change. Try to get our minds wrapped around that. That is perfectly acceptable to have like a couple hours of what the heck does all this mean, right? In reality, and I say this from my experience, there's usually one person who spearheads. We need to do annual planning. I will find a location. I will gather the materials, whatever it is. Hopefully, you get your other leaders to come along for the ride. I love having den leaders there, fundraising, share, anybody, a parent who's willing to come and spend a few hours and talk about what they want to see their youth do is valuable, right? This does not need to be a formal meeting. You do not need to use Robert's Rules of Order. I'm just going to get in the way, to be honest. Have those honest conversations. What happened? What went well? What didn't go well? Smaller units can simply have leaders around a table at a home, at a restaurant. We did that. One of the last times I did it with our pack was around Valerie's kitchen, island, and we just talked, right? We just got it done. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you have a 50, 60 person pack, youth pack, and you've got 15, 20 volunteers, you might need a room more like this and a projector and people running things. So do what works for your pack, for your families. That's a recurring theme today. There are lots of resources that I like to come into this meeting, this discussion with, and these are the list of some of them. Sometimes I had somebody to take notes, and that was super. A good example, I'll go ahead and walk over, sorry for the camera, is this whiteboard. If we're having a planning meeting right now, this whiteboard is fantastic. I can have, what's your name?
Rudy.
Rudy?
Yeah.
I could have Rudy jot up all the ideas that come up on the whiteboard right there. We can take pictures of it, then we can go on to the next thing and erase it. That is super handy for this. Not necessary. Excuse me while I mute my phone. Thank you for helping. I appreciate it. Volunteering to be my secretary. There are times when we didn't have a whiteboard and I just had pads of paper. That works too. Everybody can kind of have their own notes of what they want to do. I love bringing a generic calendar, and I think if I didn't close, I have one that I created from timeanddate.com. I love time and date because you can arrange it the way that you want. I started with July and ended with June. And there's a copy on the Google Drive that you'll have access to if you want to use it. You can format it different ways, add certain holidays and stuff like that. I found it incredibly important to have the school district calendar because we were attached to a local elementary school, as many of us are, not all of us are, but many, right? Or if you are attached to a church, what's their calendar look like? When are they going to have specific events where you can't use the building? Things like that. I think I have a point later on of checking the date. I'll come back to it. But calendars are important. Your community calendar. What's going on in my area? For me, it was Beaverton. For you, it could be Hillsborough. It could be Cornelius, Forest Grove. When are the events taking place? Is there a 4th of July parade? Is there a Beaverton celebration parade? Let's get that on the calendar. You might not know all of them, but you'll probably have a good guess, or somebody in your circle will. The list of events, the community calendar. I will make a big plug right here for Cascade Pacific Council. They're doing a really good job right now of keeping their calendar on their website up to date as best they can. It is 120% better than it was a year ago. Absolutely. And so you can get on there and you can look, be careful that you're looking at the right district. You're a Pacific Trail, if you're looking at Cascadia or Sandy and River, they're doing things too. So their Weeblos Woods might be a different weekend.
Like, how far up does that go right now?
The end of the calendar year, at least. There might be some stuff into the next year, but most of our districts have submitted their budget and their calendar for this entire calendar year. So 2025 starts to get sparse. I will say the OA calendar goes out a little bit farther, but for most of us in Cub Scouting, there's not a lot of OA events we go to usually. So, you know, there's that. Ideas. There is a history that we created in our pack, I don't know if it still exists, of just raw ideas of places to go, things to do. And it kind of has to be maintained, right? Is the zoo still doing the zoo snooze? Probably. OMSI submarine, probably still doing overnighters. Oregon Coast Aquarium down there in Newport, maybe I should probably call and check, you know. If you've done some of these, you might remember them and think, oh yeah, they're still doing that. COVID hit a lot of things really hard. So it's always good to keep that raw list of ideas open. Things like the ice skating rink. Where are the ice skating rinks? If you want to do that. I mentioned paper and writing implements. There were times I just brought stacks of pad and paper. It's cheap. Why not? Sometimes we get really addicted to having this little computer in our pocket and being able to look stuff up. And then sometimes we find ourselves in a Faraday cage room where we have no service and there's no Wi-Fi. So it's worth investigating wherever you're going to be. Is there internet access? Is there Wi-Fi? Do you even have cell service? My troop did annual planning up at Stubb Stewart. And if I remember right, the cell service was spotty. And so they didn't have as much connection as they thought they would. Worth knowing. Even if you're at somebody's house or something like that, you'll have a better idea. I always ask my volunteers to come with open minds. The thing that shuts down annual planning is, we tried that, it didn't work. Or that's not the way we've always done it. Try to get your volunteers to check that at the door. I feel that way myself sometimes, but when we approach this kind of a planning thing, we have to be open-minded. What's the possible thing? I usually ask my treasurer, is the name, to come with a budget proposal. This is a great point in the year for your PAC to say, hey, look, we're going to do these fundraisers if you do, or we have these income streams, whatever they are, and this is what we expect. This is our proposed budget. Does that work? And everybody can take a look at it and vote. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. So your mileage may vary, but this is a great point going to a new calendar, a new program year to review your budget and have that proposed budget.
Yeah, quick one about the budget. You know, I found as, you know, as I've been in that treasurer role, and then at the annual planning, it's tough to grind through budget details with a group that might be as big as this. Actually for this year, i.e. next month, I'm planning to have us do let's do a budget review, which is like the treasurer and like me, there's like real small
Core
core group to really have it served up on a silver platter. And then maybe there is a couple things, say like, guys, you want to do this or that, but at least make it brief because the numbers make the eyes glaze over. You need that.
I 1,000% agree with that. Every
Yeah.
place I've been treasurer, I've done the same thing, get the small quarter group to agree to it and then take it to the rest.
That's the way it looks for us too, right? Like, so the annual planning meeting, the
Mhm.
big meeting is usually, we have this PowerPoint presentation that breaks down each month. Here's the things that we want to do this month.
Mhm.
Here's the things we need to be looking forward to in
Yeah.
that month. And we use that actually as a monthly parent meeting guide.
Yeah.
And, we just try and outline it. So it becomes an outline for the
Yeah.
year.
That's great.
And then the treasurer comes back and we start to figure out the budget. So how-
And I'll echo that. That's a fantastic idea to come to the meeting prepared and to have the executive committee or whoever is in charge to say, yes, this is what we're going to do. You could take that same philosophy to the program side. Den leaders, Cub masters, assistants, let's all get together and brainstorm, especially in terms of advancement or camps or camping or outdoor stuff. What do we really need to accomplish? And bring those proposals to the meeting, right? I can totally see that one.
That's a neat idea about the.
It could be done, right? But you're right, bringing a blank budget to a meeting like this, eyes glaze over, math happens and stuff like that. I also really want every one of these to be, if I can, be a discussion on what our leadership needs are. Is our Cub Master going to be stepping down in a year? Is our committee chair's youngest going to be aging out this coming February? Is there a den leader who is exhausted and needs help, needs an assistant, needs a den chief? Who's the scout master, that local troop I can reach out to? These are the things to all think about in the leadership needs of your pack. And yes, den chiefs count, in my opinion, as somebody who's helping to lead your Cub Scouts, right? And if that's somebody, that's the kind of thing that you need, a 16, 17-year-old to come in and run games because your den leader for your webelos is exhausted, that's worth talking about and thinking about in a meeting like this. Questions?
You have to have an adult leader there with your.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And I have, in my experience, seen 11-year-old den chiefs that are just another Cub Scout, and I've seen 17-year-old den chiefs that are rock stars. Not a lot in between. It's my experience. All right, so creating that calendar. When you have all the resources together, this is the collate, compare, combine, and figure out what you need. The master calendar comes out with holidays, school dates, community events, district events, all of that thing. And then you're going back and thinking, what happened last year? What worked, what didn't work, right? We've had that reflection moment of, you want to do those things again? Do you want to try some new activities, something you haven't done before? Or it was so amazing, we have to do it again. Nothing wrong with that. I like to take a moment, I'll talk about that in just a second here, to just brainstorm ideas, activities, interesting things. Kind of start from a blank slate, literally a blank whiteboard. I have a picture of one that I did almost 10 years ago. And then sometimes, I don't know, does anybody know if National does themes every month for PAC meetings and stuff? Is that still a thing?
It isn't anymore.
Okay.
I asked about it because we have the nice adventures. I'm like, are we gonna have suggested pack calendars? But
Okay,
not
not a-
The good news is there's 40 years of themes out there and
Yeah.
they really don't change.
So I'm gonna recommend, as a pack, if it's gonna help to provide structure, in my opinion, pick a point of the scout law for each month and roll with it. And just go, and then go from there, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
And the new adventures, they kind of work with each other, so it'll be much easier to do stuff like this because they all kind of
Okay,
like build on each other, so it'll make it much.
Okay.
As you're leaving, be very careful where you walk. When the basketball kids gonna go up along the hallway, we're gonna find a janitor, so.
keep around someone. Thank you.
Watch your step.
Fun.
Thank you.
All right, so,
Hey,
Yeah, go ahead.
on the ideation idea, right?
Yeah.
So I personally struggle with this, right?
Sure.
Because, so we have the things that we know works,
yeah,
which is good. We all have great ideas.
right,
one of the places I struggle in my pack is, okay, I like these ideas, who's gonna run that? It ain't me,
Yeah,
right?
okay. Let
So,
me come back to that. I got about 2 slides and I'll tell you how I think that works best.
yeah,
Cool?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and that's actually kind of mentioned right here. One of the things I'd like to do is have a list of each thing we're gonna do, and after each one, there's gonna be a notation of who's in charge of that thing. We'll come back to that in a second. Joe, let me finish the slide, I can do, okay? And then review. This is important. One year we scheduled something for Easter Sunday. Oops. It's easy to reschedule when you get home and you're looking at that, going, that doesn't make any sense. That's why I put that there. Go back and take a second look. Have your spouse look at it if they weren't there. Does this make sense to you? Right?
Mother's Day.
You have something, Joe?
I was gonna say, so the monthly themes and points, especially now that and also for events,
Yeah,
especially now that we do have adventures across each theme, like
Mhm.
biking, for example, biking.
yeah,
It used to just be tigers.
Right.
And so we do a tiger bike rodeo kind of
Right.
thing. And other scouts would, but they didn't get anything out of it. So
Right.
now that we have the theme across, we can be like, cool, let's do a pack-wide bike rodeo.
okay,
And that sort of thing. So I'm actually really looking forward to that.
yeah.
My
Awesome.
intent is to have I'm gonna divide the calendar out and give everybody sticky notes that have stuff on them. And then they can put them in the month, and if they all line up in a month, like, hey, that's when we're gonna roll with those
That's
themed
awesome.
adventures, so.
Yeah. And then if you have a bike theme month, it could be a Scout's Parade, because not every scout rides a bike, right?
Exactly.
Or something like that. A scout is dexterous. Okay, so, I'm gonna work towards BC's question here in a second. Again, I like to have a defined duration. I usually do 15 to 20 minutes. Sometimes it goes off the rails and I have to stop it. But it's fun when you have different people from different backgrounds with different ideas. Diversity is the key to this, right? Oh, we do curling. So gosh, I have this connection. We could go totally do that as a great example from Pack 383 or other things, right? My typical thing is to say no judgment. I've revised that slightly for myself. If somebody says skydiving with bazookas, I'm gonna be like, that's outside the guide to safe scouting, let's leave it off the whiteboard. But if it's not outside the guide to safe scouting, and somebody's like, let's at least look at it, great, throw it up on the whiteboard. Jugglings, chainsaws, no, that's not in the guide to safe scouting.
Rubber chainsaws are.
Right. Whiteboards work well, get those written down. I have a picture in a second of one that just kind of makes me smile because it's just a capture in time. And then sort them, day trips, overnighters, camping, summer camp, where we're going pack camping, who's Baloo trained, right? Summer camps, whatever our options, service projects, fundraising ideas, the whole bit. And then I like to target awards. I know awards for Cub Scouts are starting to be pulled back a little bit. There's still a few of them. We can always look at that. I'm told that summertime pack awards still exist, but it's going to be different. Keep an eye out for that. But how do we get that? Yeah,
Question about
shoot.
balloon training.
Yeah,
You always seem to be happening during Camp Reef, which is more BSA stuff, not
Yeah.
Cub.
I know.
When is there gonna be a balloon training for Cub leaders so they don't have to attend a Camp
Here it
Reef?
is.
The biggest
You know what I mean?
challenge is NCAP. Because you walk through different charter orgs and we're gonna do it overnight. It has to be overnight, has to be National Camp Accreditation Program. I don't know how to spell NCAP. Which
No,
makes it,
correct.
is it correct? Thank you. You know. Awesome. So, it's challenging. We can't just take a 15 people to Camp Ireland like we did in 2019. Wasn't that it, Josh, last time? Did you do that one?
Yeah, Becky did it.
Becky did it? It was you. It was you.
And
We
me.
were there, Ray was
Okay,
there.
Ray was there too? Right. We can't do that anymore. National says no. So we have to either do it from scratch, which is a lot of work, or
Yeah.
piggyback on another event. So you'll see in a lot that are super weekend, camporee, Weeblos Woods. Keep your eyes open on the calendar. There might be other districts doing balloon training. Or I will go ahead and throw him under the bus. He's around here somewhere today. Daryl Crossman is our training chair. If you need balloon training, tell Daryl. If somebody needs balloon training, tell
Some of
Daryl.
the super weekends last year, were actually Cub Scout events. They weren't
Yeah.
all Scout PSA. but-
Sure.
Well, the super weekend for Cubs this spring was supposed to have a blue session, but it got canceled. I had 3 of my pack leaders all ready to do that.
Yeah, we've heard about it. Unfortunately.
One thing I'll say is if your pack gets to the point where you have 0 and you've been diligently trying to get to blue, a month or two beforehand, if it's not gonna work, reach out to this kind of group. There are solutions where with enough paperwork, we can find somebody who can multiple into your unit. It's not fun, it's not the way we want to do it, but it would fit all the bills and it would get the job done to get the kids out into the.
What I hear
Yeah.
Josh saying is, I want to go camping
Uh-huh.
with
If
any.
I'm available, I will come read a book and sit there and watch.
There you go.
Basically.
Especially with Camp Ireland, right? Why not? So if you can see it, this is a photo of a whiteboard. Hey, Jeff, do you want to try shutting off the lights? Don't put us all to sleep though. It's to your left, around the corner. There you go. That's a bit much. That'll do. Again, this was about, I think it was 9 years ago. We just sat in my office and there was about 10 of us and we just started throwing ideas around. And we did little codes of, I forget what green and red meant. But this is great. This is just raw ideas. What could we possibly do? What's interesting from fish hatcheries to going out to rivers and doing, what kind of water stuff can we do? All that kind of stuff. And then you come back to it next year and say, well, here's our list from last year. Is there anything we didn't do that is still of interest, right? And that builds and builds and builds. And maybe there's new stuff each year, right?
Disc golf is on them twice, by the way.
Yes, and I will tell you, disc golf doesn't work out too well when it's 103 degrees outside in August. So we had 2 families. It worked. So once you have a list, then I like to prioritize. I really want to go back to the Oregon Coast Aquarium and sleep in the tubes with the sharks. That's the coolest thing, one of the coolest things I've done in scouting, by the way. And my wife remembers that vividly. Prioritize. What have we not done for a while? This pack. What would like to focus on things that will appeal to the biggest audience. There's every single event that you do, there's a certain fraction of your pack that will not be able to attend or not want to attend. How do you make that beyond just your sales pitch at a pack meeting? We're going to go sleep with the sharks. How do you make that approachable? One thing, I don't know if I mentioned, I'll probably mention in a minute, is price point. To go to the Zoo Snooze is probably approaching $75 per scout today. I'm guessing. I haven't been there for a while. Anybody done the Zoo Snooze recently?
I don't think they do it anymore.
I heard of it.
Are you serious? Oh, tear, man.
Right.
So
I mean,
if they were, it would be something along that line. As opposed to, let's go on a bike ride down, what's the Greenway Park, down to Metzger Park and back again, is the thing we used to do, is a Saturday event.
Thanks for knowing your linear trail.
Exactly.
Paved. The west side.
Your Lion Scouts can do it free. A hike in the park is free. We tried to have a special big ticket item about once a quarter. And then every month, something that was very accessible, like those things. Again, disc golf is accessible. You don't have to buy a whole rack of frisbees. Somebody's got a frisbee. You don't need the fancy frisbees, right?
I was gonna add one thing that it was finally started doing like last year was like really being diligent about capturing attendance at events. Such that when you got that big list, you can kind of go like, when people actually show up, that's a big sign, right? If we've been talking about fishing, but we did fishing last spring and in fact, only 4 people showed up. So maybe there's not that much of an appetite for fishing in this case with this group, maybe we focus on something else. Where we did get a ton of events.
Yes, my son's troop had that with biking. There were 1 or 2 scouts that really wanted to go on a big bike ride and nobody else was that interested. And my troop as a youth was like that as well. We did 1 big bike trip. And people vote with their feet. That's the other way to say it, right? And I totally respect that. The other thing, to speak to Ian's point really briefly, as you're going through your den meetings, if you meet together, your pack meetings, capturing attendance with each of those times that your unit comes together in any way can be really valuable because, oh my gosh, when was the last time we saw Jimmy? Comes up. Has Jimmy been gone for 3 months and nobody noticed? Did somebody reach out to Jimmy for attention? And it's easy to have that happen. And usually the den leader is the first to notice, but maybe they won't say anything. It happens. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. You got a point? Your birth at the scene.
No, I was, I read, we're very diligent with the Scout book and RSVP and checking that's without, a lot more cumbersome now, because switched it around, but we do that for the summer events, because that's the only way you can really track for JTE, and summertime baccalaureate as well,
Exactly.
was through that attendance, so that's pretty important.
We used to do it with a spreadsheet. It doesn't have to be fancy. I mean, it can be, it doesn't have to be. Dems can be doing activities and outings on their own as well. Especially the older ones, you know, your Lions, well, sometimes they're gonna have to go see it kind of thing too. But keep that in mind as well, you know, maybe they get a specific thing they want to go do. Once you get there, again, this is a capture of 2015 calendar, this is dated. My point of be aware of the holidays, that Easter thing we created. Make sure you have that, it should be one page and all of your stuff, DEM meetings, PAC meetings, fundraising, the whole bit. When are you doing join nights, if you can? You might not know all the touch points leading up to that join night, if you're perhaps gonna be at the science fair, the back to school night, whatever, TBD, we'll get there when we get there, right? Try to get them on there. Blue and Gold, Pinewood Derby, summer camps, the whole bit. What are we doing scouting for food? When's Webelos Woods, so that the Webelos den leaders don't forget about it, very important. Camp Food doesn't matter right now, well, unless your den is invited, right? You still do a day trip as an invite, so I guess it's worth having it on there as a asterisk. And that is part one, success. And then I like to think of this as, to a certain degree, a living document, because as you progress through your scouting year, your program year, things will come up. Oops, we can't get that location for the Pinewood Derby. Oh, that den meeting, we don't have access to the school, whatever it is, right? And maybe you have to adjust location or adjust the date, that's fine. As long as you have something to start with, that's 98% of the way there. And then we just solve the problems as they come. Right?
Mike, this is the one, I'm sorry, I didn't bring my example, but
Go ahead.
the, from the pack for a troop, the one pager.
Mhm.
It should really be, I would really push on you, the minutes of annual planning.
Yeah.
Right? Because you only can probably do one event in a month. So if you've already come out of annual planning and you know this is September, October, November, December, it doesn't really, if you couldn't get to the day of the month, just write them down on a list, right? And now you know what everybody's gonna do. And when you go to your committee meeting, you go, oh, shoot, Mark, you're supposed to do this next month. Have we got anything? It helps with accountability, but it also, not only is it for you, it's for your recruiting, because when a parent asks you, what kind of things do you guys do? You can hand them the 8.5 by 11, that is your annual plan that gets you to next year's annual planning. And says, this is what we're doing this month. You can put themes, you can do the holiday, if you need to do holidays, you can throw in what you know. What you don't know just goes in a month.
And TBD, right?
Right.
And the words that come out of your mouth after this is what we're gonna do this year are, and we would love to have you join us. Joe.
So I was gonna say, and this goes to the who owns it, is when we plan an event, we have decided that we don't want just one person running it, because if they get sick, if they have a problem. So it's always a duo. And here's what's interesting is the ones that are further out that we don't necessarily have a committed second, those become our talking points to parents. Those are like, hey, by the way, coming up in this month, we have this event, we need a second on it.
Interesting.
And that way the parents can they don't have to own the event, they can be involved.
And it's
in
not fully on their shoulders,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, we don't ever dump anything on a single
And
person.
to speak to BC's point, because we haven't quite got there yet, we haven't closed the circle.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, I'm just looking, you remember, BC had a great point. This can also be displayed as a list. Date, event, date, event, date, event. The third column is, as Joe says, who, or how many, whatever works for you. For my pack, a lot of times it was pack meetings, well, that's the cut master, comma assistant, or whatever, right, or whatever it is. So that's, in my opinion, and you don't have to come out of the meeting, again, to speak to BC's point a little bit, I don't think you have to come out of the meeting with every single thing having a name on it. That should be your goal. But if you have a few blank places or things where it's question mark, that becomes your talking point for your next meeting, right?
Yeah. And it is also important to note, so we have a monthly parent leader meeting.
Yeah.
And this is literally part of my intro is we check in, we see how the den's doing. And then the next thing we do is here are our next 3 upcoming events, who's going to be on these as a heads up.
And is everything on track, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
need
I
any
love
help with this.
That's fantastic. That's exactly what it should be. So does this make sense to everybody? Who does this today? Am I preaching to the choir? Jeff does this today.
This is the output, and the thing I'll tell you is, once you have one, Next year's it's easier.
It is.
Yeah, no, for us, it's that PowerPoint, right?
Yeah.
We use that month over month, but I don't have it as a one page.
One pagers are awesome. Yeah, and Ian has a one pager for what is scouting 101. Do you still have that? That Val created?
Somewhere, it's on the drive.
That was like amazing. Everything you would need to tell somebody who's never experienced scouting what this is in one page. At the bottom were 4 or 5 contacts. That was gold. And that with a calendar, dude, you can sell this program back to back, exactly. I like to have it so you can put a magnet on the fridge and you don't have to like flip it over, but you know, whatever works for you, right?
I will say the problem that I ran into, for a couple of years, I was getting real graphic design heavy on the calendar, putting it together, having a nice thing, and then when you print it, it seems like it's official.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, dates change.
Yeah.
And of course, our actual source record is Google Calendar, so making a printed version is extra work.
Yeah.
It is nice to hand to somebody, but back to the month by month, I found that was easier to just like, it's a little bit more bulletproof if it's more month by month rather than like that. So
Less
that's the
specific.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is key to show people who are interested that like, you've got your shit together.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
You
you've
look,
got-
hey, I don't know if you do, but you look like.
You look like a kid. That's exactly right.
Thank you.
So speaking of looking like you've got it together, also having a budget is really important. One of the biggest things that we struggled in my time as a committee chair was the cost of awards, because my advancement chair was happy to get every Cub Scout, every pin, every patch, every segment he could possibly find, and I love him for it. But oh my gosh, that adds up. And so what does that come down to in terms of the operating cost of your pack? Is that the way that you operate? Do you need to have a bigger source of income? Do you need to have more fundraisers? How is that going to work? Fixed costs like your blue and gold, your pine with derby, almost no, it's going to be a fixed cost per head probably, right? If you have 100 people or 50 people or 5 people, it's probably going to be about the same, give or take, depending on your location, if you have location costs. And you have variable costs. If you have 10 dens versus 3 dens, that's going to be different in terms of if you're buying, as an example, leader guides. Everyone's buying new leader guides and scout books, right? Those income opportunities, figure out what those mean, that goes right into your budget. Every PAC's budget is different. There's no one in this room that can tell you your PAC's budget is wrong except for you and your PAC. But, so that's what this point's all about. The only thing that's really not a good idea is to not have a budget, because then you have no idea what's happening, right? I will point this out because this is important. Scout accounts technically are still okay. There are people who will tell you that you should not. The challenge is you need to be able to justifiably say to yourself, this Cub Scout is not my employee. I am not treating them as an employee. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio. If they go out and sell a $1 candy bar, they don't get $1 deposited into their Scout account, right? There's more, I know it's 10 years old, but there's a 2014 Cubcast that covers it pretty well. And the problem is that we're interpreting IRS murky regulations. And that's where a lot of this comes from. There was a big kerfuffle about 12 or 13 years ago where all this came from. Just don't treat your Cub Scouts as if they're employees and you're fine. Cool? All right. You don't have to have Scout accounts, by the way. You just have everybody sloshed together in a big general fund. And then leadership. Your Cub Masters, your assistants. Do you have a succession plan? Succession plans are so important. You have a Cub Master that is exhausted. He's been doing this for 4 years. He's amazing. And he needs to step back. Who's the person who's going to step in, right? Your committee chair, the youngest is aging out. Den leaders are different. They kind of follow their den often. They might roll off, or they might circle back around and have a younger, whatever. But it's those key pack level roles we need to figure out. Dens are being formed. One of the reasons I really, really like when spring recruitment works is that I have a good 3 to 4 months of an eyeball on those scouts and their families. That they're part of a den, but they haven't done a lot of advancement yet. Who'd be a really good den leader? Is it dad or mom, grandma, grandpa? I don't care. Anybody who's coming to a meeting going to summer camp? Yeah, absolutely. And if they're going to summer camp, they gotta be registered, right? So there's that. All the really important ones. This is what national kind of paints a picture. You have your program down here. in a committee, in charter organization. Council really is not in charge of your pack, by the way. Council and district are here to support you. That wasn't clear. I can't tell you what to do. Yeah, go ahead.
Mike, just a bit ago, did you say, if you're going to scout camp, you have to register?
Yes.
I thought Cub Scouts, that was not the case.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, it's
Direct parent.
72 hours.
Thank you for pointing that
You're a
out.
parent.
It's a
Why would
direct
you do
direct
it?
parent, right?
But less than 72 hours.
So it's,
So, yeah, 72 hours still
Right.
counts.
Because we both would.
So the catch is grandparents don't fall into that clause. So it's worth thinking about that.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, we've had grandparents.
Making notes.
That's
furiously
right.
down.
If you have confusion, it's all on the guide to safe scouting. Like the most recent one, don't go look at the one that was published 10 years ago, right? Keep that. And also bring that to your annual planning. Guide to safe scouting is important. Any other questions on that?
Worth noting at that juncture that Baldwin is doing the full week. with the
Yep.
week clubs.
It is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So everybody has.
There, you know.
Right, no, you need to be registered.
Right.
They're trying to.
Yeah, Baldwin has to be
Yeah,
registered.
and you gotta have parts A, B, and
So-
C.
So the registration requirement applies for over 72 hours?
Yes.
Yes,
I missed that?
there's still time, Joe.
Oh,
You'll
yeah.
be fine.
I mean, I'm registered, but yeah,
Yeah.
no, we have,
You
one
take
of
it.
our dentists is going to, out of council and it's over 72 hours. We have, well, we've got our part C sorted, but I didn't realize there was.
Everyone stand for that.
So the really easy trick to that is, I think, is there still units got a reserve for PAC?
Yes.
Yeah.
That will not tank your training and it's easy to do. And they can register online. And your charter org rep is the one that will go in online and MyDOT Scouting and say, I want them in this position.
Yeah.
So make sure unless you're a delegate, you can say, I want them in that. And Scouter Reserve makes it a lot easier. So to go back to this a little bit, this is my wish list I created many years ago of all the things that I wanted. It was pie in the sky. There was a point in time where I was getting kind of close. I didn't have a den chief for every den. And pack trainers, I've met one in the wild once. It was great. He's a funny guy. Journey to Excellence chair. We'll talk about JTE in a second. You know, I've never had that, but create a vision for what your pack looks like, right? What do you need? Do you need a fundraising chair, or do you have a bunch of Intel money coming in? You're just sitting pretty. You can go either way, right? No wrong answer. Do you need a pack trainer, or is everybody just on it and they're in their pajamas at 2 a.m. doing their YPT because they just love it so much and they're going to go do the next thing? I mean, you laugh, but I mean, there are those people, right? Remember the 5th of November. Remember that to charter at the end of this year is going to be different. I don't know how, but it is. But I guarantee you, your pack will still need all of this. You need 5 living, breathing humans who are adults with a pulse at the end of the year. Your COR, your charter org rep, can be double registered as either a committee chair or a member of committee. Otherwise, you need 1 Cub master, 1 committee chair, minimum of 1 den leader. So you can double up one of these. You gotta have 5 humans. That's the minimum. This hasn't changed. Questions? So we're thinking about annual planning. Who's gonna be on the roster? All right, the result is, you know where you're going. You know how you're gonna pay to get there, and you know who's gonna lead it. You've defined your pack's direction, and you've created, I hope, a program that's gonna keep these scouts engaged and involved. Now, we get to be excited and reward ourselves with a good, I won't say credit card, that's not it, it's a report card. And say that we're doing all the right things, or if there's space for improvement, and that is the journey to excellence. I'll be brief, because again, not everybody loves JTE, and I get it. I've always kind of really loved it as a guide for where we should be and where we should be going. It's not perfect, but it's a good reflection of, are we on the right path? Go ahead, Dave.
I'm gonna say also, if you wanna also reward your leaders,
Oh.
you need to have a pack, they need to be leaders in the pack that has reached
JTE.
JTE
We're gonna get to that.
for 2 years.
That's
So-
about, some of it's 3.
Yeah, that's 3, but at least the last 2.
I've got a slide on that in a second. I made sure it was still up to date. So history of JTE used to be called the Quality Unit Award. Yes, in a Boy Scout troop, the Quality Unit Award got lots of snickers and laughs. They finally decided, so thank you in the back, Jeff. They rebranded it in 2011 to Journey to Excellence, and it's been essentially that way ever since. It is a self-evaluation. It is a report card you get to give yourself. It's an annual report card. And for me, from my perspective, why I like to do this is it gives us sort of a way to look at whether there are things that are working really well and we're just knocking it out of the park, or are there places where we can improve? And there's usually both. For any pack, there's usually both. They are slightly different every year. They're adjusted, they're changed, and they're trying to keep it modern, up to date. You know, what are the challenges? What is the program? If you look back 10 years ago, it's going to be very different. Rather different.
COVID JT was very good.
Very different. Here, have a patch. You survived, right? So, and it's important to keep in mind that we are almost in the middle of the JTE year because it is by calendar year, January 1st through December 31st. It's not program year. So you've already probably crossed off a number of things that we're going to talk about here in just a second already by doing DEM meetings, having back meetings, committee meetings, service projects, all that stuff. There are right now 10 items. They're basically rows on the JTE scorecard, and each row has a bronze, silver, and a gold. So it's like the Olympics, right? And these are the things. Do you have a budget? Do you have a plan? Are you recruiting, or at least trying to recruit? Are you retaining scouts? Are you sending at least some of them to Scouts PSA troops? Advancement activities, all these things, down to service projects. And these have changed a little bit, but we always want to strive for training leadership. And are we giving people the opportunity to participate, adults, right? There are, like I said, 3 levels: bronze, silver, gold. Most packs in this district could get bronze in their sleep. If you fell over and spilled some ink on the paper, you'd get bronze. I swear to you, right? Most of you could get gold if you're not already. You just look at it and go, oh yeah, we just need to tweak this a little bit, make sure we record these, blah, 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 and you're there. And there are points in each, and you score them in each of the objectives out of 10. And if you do at least 8 of them and get just over 1,000 points, you are gold. If you miss a couple, it's not a big deal. There are packs that, you know what, we just didn't do service projects this year, especially COVID. Oh my gosh. It's okay. Don't worry about it. That's worth talking about in your annual planning meeting. Hey, look, this is what this is all about. Now, it's not as daunting as some people will tell you. I have a list of 8 basic things here. Rank advancement's a big one. The first one up there. If your scouts are earning their rank, for the most part, you're going to be fine. If it becomes a challenge where you're just not getting there, it's worth looking at why that's happening. Service project. There's a tool. It's so hard to find today. I swear to you. It's buried in internet advancement, and there's a weird drop down. But if you can record your service projects and figure that out, if you're having trouble, let me know. I can help you. That is in there of service projects recorded in the online tool. And it's way better than it was 10 years ago, by the way. Getting the scouts to go to summer camp. There's a percentage they want to see. Trade leadership. Summertime pack award. We'll see what happens with that. They're still working on shifting it around and making it make sense. Getting those Webelos and Arrow of Light scouts to visit troop meetings, go to activities with troops. Those are requirements to earn Arrow of Light, right? They should be already doing that or doing some of that. Recruitment. At least try. At least give it a shot. More than just flyers. Your Cub Scouts can be a fantastic source of new recruits by just encouraging them to ask their friends. If you're having fun in Cub Scouts, is there a friend that you have that would also be having fun in Cub Scouts? I'm going to reflect back to a den that we had, how many years ago was it? Where we had 2 lions, and it was maybe 5, a year later, 5 tigers, and this one young lady took it upon herself to recruit as many of her classmates as she could. We had, was it 13? It was 13 wolves, I think it was. 6 or 7 tigers, 13 wolves. Then COVID hit and it was down to 3. All right. It was wild. But she took it upon herself to recruit as many of her friends as she could. And boy, howdy did she. So that's my point here. Your scout can be a great resource to you and to help you with Journey to Excellence. And then the annual plan. You've already proposed a budget. Check. You've done that. Why does this matter? I'll start with the thing that's probably least likely. If somebody has scouting experience, they might ask you, did you Journey to Excellence? How'd you do? I've seen this happen a couple times in my 10 years in this council at Webelos Woods. Somebody like Ian will sidle up to somebody like me, Say, hey, Mike, why are your scouts not wearing Journey to Excellence or something like that, right? You do Journey to Excellence, today most people don't care, but having the patch on, a little glitz and glamour, kind of cool, right? Happens with troops and we will as well. Primarily the adults in your pack earn this award. It's almost transparent to your Cub Scouts until you're handing out patches and telling them where to sew it on. It shouldn't be a chore, it should be goal oriented and hopefully part of the annual planning process. And the reason I like to do an annual planning and break out the scorecard is one of the things that you can do is for each of those goals, assign it to one of your adult leaders. Budget is obviously a treasurer job. Advancement can be your advancement chair, et cetera, et cetera. And that filters right into what Dave was talking about before with these leader awards, where we like to recognize our volunteers for doing an awesome job by pinning a knot on their uniform. And a couple of these, your pack does need to participate in Journey to Excellence. Some of them with Scouters training, you need 2 years of at least bronze, right? And this is the primary leadership. That's why I like to go, I've got 10, which 10 of you want to do this, right? Cub Master's key is silver for at least 2, so you're right. But Cub Master's key takes 3 years to earn, unless there's an assistant Cub Master clause for like as much as a year, I think it is. Whatever.
You don't need JTE for den leader? I thought you did. I thought
Yes.
you have to
Den
meet
leader's
unit
training.
goals as part of the den leader.
Last I looked, Den Leaders Training Award does not require JT. Anybody know for sure?
No, it does not. You don't need a scout training.
Yeah, I was actually really curious about that
Yeah.
I mean, I like it not myself, but, you know,
Have one.
I've got a couple of den leaders, right?
Not
Yes,
for you.
Part of the thing is that I've done all the stuff, of
Yeah.
course, but, you know, and it says you have to be participating in the units, met its goals for the year, right? I'm like, well,
What are those goals?
yeah,
Survive.
exactly. How do I sign off on
Yeah.
what those goals were, right? Like, we
Right.
did it. We survived,
That-
right?
that
We met
really-
our goals.
So I'll give you a little insider baseball here. Once the committee chair signs it, and some of these, the Cub Master has to sign it, right? I think. Committee chair?
Committee chair.
You're right.
I point you right.
Thank you. Yeah, Ray will sign it.
I'll sign it, yeah.
And then it goes to the training chair and or me as your commissioner. We don't audit.
Okay.
It's your committee chair saying yes,
Well,
okay?
God is trustworthy.
Yes,
right.
that's exactly it.
Loyal.
That's exactly it. But when I was committee chair, I usually think about and read the things and say, did we reach our goals? Because I usually have some goals, right? And did they help? Den leader is where the rubber meets the road in the scouting program. Every goal we meet is because of a den leader.
Right,
I guarantee it.
right.
So I will never not sign a den leader's training award.
I don't know, for us, I mean, the goal's always been, did we have fun? And
Yes.
did everybody achieve their ranks, right?
So, somebody look it up and let me know what, last time I checked, the den leader's training award did not have that. This is my newest slide. This is from a few months ago. It used to be that council would take all the forms that you sent to me and I signed, and there was a system that got logged and it was very efficient. That system no longer exists today. This is truly something that you do for yourself and your pack, and then if you want to share it with me, your commissioner, whoever your commissioner is next, we're happy to get those. We're happy to review them and talk to you about it. But there is nothing official now, and back to BC's point, when you go down to the scout store and say, Kim, I want 40 JTE golds, a scout is trustworthy. That's where it is today.
Wait, so you're telling me there is no like webpage where I go in and say where we calculate our points, this is all just.
Now, there used to be an Excel spreadsheet that would help you do the math, and that
Okay.
probably still exists.
Yeah.
But
Is that link in this? Here?
it's, if you search for scouting journey to excellence, it'll
Oh,
take
fine.
you. Yeah, it's pretty easy to find. If it exists today, I know it didn't last year.
Okay.
I'm more of a PDF. I've linked all the PDFs here. Because yes, some of the advancement math is like, oh. But,
I'll be honest, I found out about JTE when I was doing my Troop 855 committee member training. I'm like, JTE, why didn't I know about this in the 5 years I've been doing the Cub Scout program?
I came into being a committee chair 10 years ago, and I asked my predecessor, how are we doing on Journey to Excellence? And she looked at me and said, Journey to what now? And then she became our district executive.
Yeah, I mean, I'd seen the patches before, but I never connected
Yeah.
them ever into the web.
So, it used to be that PACs would roll up to districts, or sorry, all of the units, PAC troops, crews, ships would roll to district, districts would roll to council, all the way to national. It stops at the unit now. There is no district or council JTE. It is for you as a reflection of Are we doing the right thing? Now, they still update it every year, and I still think it's a valuable tool. But, and I would love to receive them from you. Heaven forbid, I'm still your district commissioner in 6 months. Or if you just want to have somebody to chat about, how does this look? I'm happy to do that. But it's not as official as it used to be. Robin Stoker used to take these and record them and scan them, and they were like racked out in a filing cabinet. Not anymore. So that shouldn't dissuade you from doing it. I just want to give you the notion that it's not as official as it used to be, because you deserve to know that. I still think there's value. They're also not doing ribbons at the national level. That's a cost saving measure.
I'll admit that already.
There you go. Joe will make us all ribbons.
No, not
No,
ribbons.
you should totally make your own JCE ribbon. So it is truly a self-evaluated report card. And it is worth, because it seems like every time I go through this as a committee chair, there's something that pops out and makes me think, I didn't expect that. Usually you have a gut instinct of how things are going and what's working, what's not working. All these scorecards are live, and you'll have the links if I do my job right. For those of you in the chat, we've had 2 in the chat, right? 3?
We're up to 3.
Up to 3. If you could put your name, your full name and your email as a comment just once, that'd be great. That would help me. Because Ray's taking attendance over there, right? All right. These are all live, and you can go and see, what is a troop doing? What is a Sea Scout ship doing? What is your, that, all that kind of stuff. So that is my pitch today. I hope that it was informative. It's great that you're here thinking ahead for what's going to come, because forward-looking leaders are what we need in this organization. So thank you, and I'm here for questions, for discussion, for comment. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and end my report.